Hi everyone. So just a heads up, in this video I'm going to be talking about a specific petition, and I'm going to put the petition in my description, so please do consider signing it. It's change.org, so it's a mainstream petition site. It's quick to do, and people might say petitions make no difference. I can understand the cynicism, but sometimes they do. Sometimes the government does respond, and sometimes the government does act on it, and doing nothing isn't going to change anything. So if you can, please do consider signing it. The issue here is about drink driving, specifically drug driving. I've long felt that this is something that the legal system treats far too leniently. There have been too many cases. The case I'm citing is particularly bad in the sense that there were three fatalities, but there are many cases where some reckless idiot has got behind the wheel in that state and lives have been lost, and the sentence does not sufficiently reflect that. A few years ago I made a video about a teenager. I believe it was in Leeds, and he had a previous record, and I think he'd actually killed someone on a previous occasion. Yet the same old story: early release, reoffending. It's infuriating. Now, as far as I'm concerned, someone who has already killed someone, as was that case, and wants to get behind the wheel again, that's someone with no remorse, and that should be one of the key things in deciding their sentence. I think too many judges don't seem to take that into account. I mean, the issue of remorse should be genuine remorse, not just, a display in front of the judge, but there should be ways to assess if it is sincere or not. Before I get into this, I'm going to actually read out what's on the petition site. There's a few details, they're important, and it's also a personal testimony of the daughter of the family who were killed. This happened in Norfolk in this January. And the driver in this case got a sentence of 10.5 years, but it'll probably be 7 years because, of course, he'll get early release. That's a damn disgrace. It shouldn't happen. Like I said, I'll read out the petition in a minute, but this is one of those things I think our justice system is broken. The recent King's speech, there were some welcome things. The Sunak government boasted about getting tough on crime, and there are some areas where crime has been tougher. Actually, sentencing, I should say, has been tougher, and there were some welcome things in that King's speech. For example, ministers will have more say on parole hearings. Well, I assumed that was the case. I assumed Home Secretaries, for example, Justice Secretaries, could intervene in parole decisions, but there'll be more power to do that. Good. That's a welcome thing. The most serious criminals will be obliged to attend court. This is, of course, coming out for the Lucy Letby case. That's good, except it should again factor in what the victim wants. It may well be that victims of serious crime don't actually want to see the offender there. It might be too harrowing for them. So that should be a deciding factor. And you could have a particularly remorseless criminal that wants to turn it into a circus. So that should be something that's considered. So some aspects of that King's speech were welcome. But when it comes to drink drivers, I think the law is far too lenient. And I feel the same way about youth gangs. There's basically three areas when it comes to justice I feel strongly about, because I think they're three areas that are abandoned. This is one of them: drink and drug drivers and reckless drivers. Now, I'm not talking about someone who goes 40 miles an hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. I'm talking about people that are, going 90 miles an hour in a 35-mile zone, or, who are on drink or drugs well over the limit, who have previous offences and have reckless disregard for that. I'm not talking about minor violations, which, a lot of people have. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about serious recklessness. Um, Youth gangs, I've been very vocal about that. I think far, far too lenient. Where you get these violent youth gangs that someone looked at them the wrong way and they basically kill them. It's frightening, and I think the law needs to be much harder on that sort of case. Um, the joint enterprise thing, that is when you get members of a gang who are held responsible because they didn't stop an attack or they were part of it, even if they didn't deliver the fatal blow. That has been strengthened. That's a good thing. We've had two particularly troubling cases in the northeast of England in the early 2020s that involved individuals being killed by youth gangs, and it's to me that's one of the most frightening because it's teenagers and they're so depraved of that they would kill a stranger in that way. And often the victims are other teenagers. So anyone who says, "Oh, you're vilifying young people," not at all. Often young people are themselves victims of serious crime. The other area is antisocial behaviour. It can ruin lives where you have persistent, so-called trivial crimes that can really wear someone down. Of course, any crime can be damaging, but those three areas I feel particularly strongly about. There's other awful crimes, but I'm going to read out the petition. Bear with me. I think it is important that people understand the details of this. The petition was started by a young woman by the name of Summer Mace, and she shared the petition on her Facebook page. Justice for Lisa Carter, Paul Carter, and Jade Mace. And this was started by Summer Mace. So far, it's had 13,000 signatures and 15,000 goal, so please do consider signing. And I'm going to just quote this. Please sign my petition to call for change to our criminal justice system. I'm working alongside my family, other families and charities to make a difference. On the 15th of January 2023, Aurelius Civilicius, I assume that's a foreign national, I don't know, but by that name I assume he's a foreign national, killed my mum, Lisa Carter, aged 49, my stepdad, Paul Carter, aged 41, and my sister Jade Mace, aged 25, and the offender is 39. Aurelius Civilis, it's a difficult name to pronounce. It's Cielevicius. I guess that's Silvicius. Pleaded guilty to driving dangerously, and the judge at Norwich Crown Court sentenced him to 10.5 years in prison, with the potential for parole after 2/3 7 years. The maximum available to the judge was life imprisonment. Yet the judge chose to just give him 10.5 years, and he could be out in 7 years. Not only did he kill 3 people, bear in mind 3 deaths here, there were many aggravating circumstances. He had been disqualified from driving 3 times in the previous 3 years, so this is a habitual offender. He was on bail for driving and drug offences at the time of the crash, and was on a 1900 to 7 a.m. curfew, that's 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew, but no monitoring tag was fitted and no checks done when he killed my family, and so should not have even been out of his house. In other words, this is a remorseless criminal. Prior to the crash, he passed a police car in a lay-by. The police attempted but were unsuccessful to record his speed with a laser device, and then went in search for his car. It was recorded that he travelled 1.7 miles at reckless speeds, including crossing 2 red lights, almost hitting other cars, and made 2 overtakes over solid white lines in no overtaking areas. That shows you what sort of person he is. At the time of the crash, he was 15 times over the limit for methamphetamines, crystal meths, 3 times over the limit for cannabis. Methadone was also present. He was on the wrong side of the road when he hit my family at 96 miles per hour in a BMW X5. They were travelling at 52 miles per hour in a Vauxhall Mocha. The speed limit was 60 miles per hour. So he was well over the speed limit as well. He killed my beautiful family instantly and somehow got out with hardly a scratch. The appeal against a sentence of 10.5 years was turned down for referral to the Court of Appeal by the Solicitor General Michael Tomlinson, KC MP, on the basis that it would not meet the criteria for being unduly lenient, and that is a damn disgrace. My words. In the letter, he talks about the judge being a he, despite the fact the judge was actually a she. In other words, this case he was tone deaf. He obviously wasn't paying attention to the details. This gives me no confidence that our case has even been looked at properly. I'll come back to that point, it's important. I'm therefore starting this petition to get justice for my family. After all, what does it take to get life imprisonment? You know, the King's Speech was talking about more life imprisonments. This should be such a case. The criminal justice system is broken and needs fixing. My campaign and the petition will focus on the following key points: reopening the criminal justice appeal. I demand a thorough review of all evidence related to this case, and I feel was previously not looked at or disregarded during the initial appeal screening process. It is crucial that no stone is left unturned when seeking justice for my family. Life imprisonment for death by dangerous driving. Since June 2022, life imprisonment can be imposed by judges for death by dangerous driving and has been public knowledge. However, the Sentencing Council, a useless bloody organisation, my words, did not release the guidelines until July 2023. What is the point of having a sentence available without guidelines? Lenient sentencing continues to be an issue that needs addressing. 3. Improving the bail system. I call upon lawmakers and judicial authorities to reassess the bail system in place. Any curfew should be controlled, for example with a tag, and stricter sanctions for failure to comply to the bail conditions. 4. Consideration of consecutive sentences. I advocate for a shift towards imposing consecutive sentences rather than concurrent ones for individuals convicted of multiple deaths simultaneously. Consecutive sentencing ensures that appropriate punishment is given for each of the victims' lives taken, and in this case there were 3 lives. Please help and sign my petition. My family were given a life sentence on the day that man killed my loved ones, a life sentence that I will never be released from. On the 15th of January, he killed our future lives, thoughts and hopes, as we have none without them. The only thing that we could do for Lisa Carter, Paul Carter and Jade Mace now is to try and make a change. The law needs changing. The justice system, and she's put that in inverted commas, needs to actually produce justice, and the victims need to be considered. I will never get my family back, but I will do everything that I can to make a change to prevent any other families experiencing the nightmare that both my family, myself and my family have experienced, as well as continuing to fight for actual justice for my family. I signed that and I shared it to my Facebook, and I'm obviously making this video. She's obviously done her homework, and I just have so much respect for someone who um, has been through so much pain, but will campaign for her family in this way. And it is a damn disgrace that the justice system is so tone deaf that it puts the onus on the victims to get justice. Now, people might say the victims of crime are blinded by emotions, but she is talking in a very rational way. She's laying out the details, she's laying out the situation as it is. She's not speaking emotively there, except at several points, but she's clearly laying out the facts. I think it's a damn disgrace that the Sentencing Council procrastinated on the releasing of those guidelines. It shows what an absolutely useless body they are. I think I have no respect for them. I think they're a disgrace. But the KC involved, the fact that I actually thought it would be the Attorney General who referred the case to the Court of Appeal, but apparently it was the local KC in this case. The fact that he couldn't even get the judge accurate just shows how seriously it was taken. How this doesn't meet the criteria for undue leniency. A habitual criminal with numerous offences who kills 3 people gets 10.5 years, he'll be out in 7. That's sick. It's sick. I think he should get a life sentence. He won't. But at the very least, it should be an increase. I would say a minimum of 15 to 20 years, minimum. But I think, given his record, given that 3 people lost their lives, this people need to understand this wasn't just someone who done something stupid in a reckless moment of abandon. This is someone who is a career offender, you know, who was well over the limit, who, in every sense of the word, over the speed limit, over the, well, he had illegal drugs. I mean, he's a callous criminal. To me, that's someone without remorse. He probably turned on the waterworks for the judge. She mentions nothing about him showing remorse, so we can assume that he didn't. But even if he did, even if he expressed sorrow in court, the fact that he was a repeat offender demonstrates that he isn't really sorry. He's only sorry he got caught. Now, it is a custodial sentence, and that's absolutely right. But 7 years for taking 3 lives, and I also think it's a disgrace that the onus is put on victims. The weight is put on her back to try and get justice, because our arrogant legal establishment is not living in the real world. The judge in this case should have looked at those aggravating factors and given a much harsher sentence. The sentencing council, I don't see the rationale for delaying the guidelines. I mean, I have no respect for them. I think they live in a bubble. I think they're utterly tone deaf, especially on issues like this. And the KC, again, tone deaf. He couldn't even get the details right, talking about the judge as a man when it was a woman who presided. So please, if you agree with me, please sign this petition. I know people say, oh, Nathan, it makes no difference. But, if everyone took that attitude, then definitely nothing would change. At least with something like this, and more people who sign a petition, at least, if nothing else, at least it shows the victim, in this case, this young woman who's lost her family, at least she can see that there's a lot of people out there who are with her. Like I say, the King's Speech had some welcome things, but this is one of those areas that's still abandoned. Why the hell is it drink and drug drivers are treated so leniently? There's another thing, and it's not mentioned in this petition, but if you kill someone by reckless driving or by drunk driving, you can actually get behind the wheel again. You often hear of cases that this person was sentenced to 7 years in prison and banned from driving for 10 years. Why not for life? Now, if you kill someone when you're drink driving, you should never, never be allowed to drive again. And I would argue, actually, if you're caught well over the limit, it shouldn't be, the ban should really reflect that. The fact that someone can legally drive again after killing someone, to me, is perverse. It's sick. And it shows how tone deaf our justice system is, the justice establishment. I blame the sentencing council, I blame the parole board, and I blame judges. Now, on the issue of judges, people might say, oh, but their hands are tied. Well, not when they have a maximum sentence available and they choose not to use it. And not when they, even if it's a case that their hands are tied, they could do a hell of a lot more to speak out. They can say, we resent having to impose these soft sentences. They can speak out. They don't, or very few of them do. The Court of Appeal is tone deaf. The vast majority of cases that are referred to it, they ignore because there's no changes made. So it's utterly infuriating.